Always try to see the best in people.
Decomposition in bodies
recovered from water.
As a consequence, I'm inclined to reserve all judgments. Even I have a limit.
Recovering bodies from water is a common task for any medical examiner or coroner office. Unfortunately, there will be a significant post-mortem interval before many of these remains are found. A thorough scene investigation must be undertaken to determine if the location of the death and that of the body recovery are the same. Decomposition in a wet environment differs from that in other settings, both in the changes that occur and the rate at which they occur. It is essential that the forensic pathologist or medico-legal death investigator recognize and appreciate the uniqueness of immersed and submerged remains. The typical decomposition changes proceed more slowly in the water, primarily due to cooler temperatures and the anaerobic environment. However, once a body is removed from the water, putrefaction will likely be accelerated. Post-mortem changes are not only affected by water temperature, but also by current, as well as obstacles and structures, both natural and man-made, that may interact with the remains. The anaerobic nature of decomposition for wet or submerged remains may result in Adipocere formation, a unique and fascinating process that results from incomplete transformation of lipids by bacteria, insect, and animal species. Feeding on the remains are different for submerged bodies. Post-mortem predation may cause external defects that mimic injuries and should be interpreted with care. Forensic pathologists and medico-legal death investigators must be aware of the post-mortem changes that may occur with submerged and immersed bodies.
I don't want to talk about this, doctor.
Then write about it.
Write about it.
Yes.
Why would I do that?
The Valley of Passion. This was a grotesque place. Where did the money come from?
Where did the money come from?
Introduction. The accurate interpretation of postmortem changes is an essential skill for any forensic pathologist or medico-legal death investigator. That being said, postmortem changes can assist or hinder a death investigation. Perhaps the most beneficial feature of postmortem change is in assisting with estimating the postmortem interval. Though the imprecision of this estimation is well recognized and should be taken into account, Kiely Rodni did not drown. Characteristic changes that occur to a body after death follow a somewhat predictable timetable, and placed into the context of the death scene and witness accounts as available provide the investigator with a rough estimate of the time of death. On the other hand, post-mortem changes alter the appearance of the body, making wounds and other evidence of the body's interaction with the environment more difficult to interpret or even recognize. Kiely Rodni did not drown. Artifacts introduced by decomposition obscure external morphologic features of the individual, and putrefaction alters key autopsy observations such as organ weights and tissue integrity. Advanced decomposition may completely preclude any detailed gross or histologic examination of major organs. Kiely Rodni did not drown. Establishing cause and manner of death for bodies recovered from a liquid environment, typically from water, is challenging enough without the additional complexity of interpreting post-mortem changes. One must first establish that the recovery location is the primary death scene. Prosser Reservoir, for example, a death may occur on land, the body subsequently placed in the water as a means of disposal. Who killed Kiely? Alternatively, a strong current or tidal activity may move the body a considerable distance from where the decedent entered the water, or a person or group of people in a collective effort. Particular attention should be paid to anything weighting the body down. External wrappings like blankets, curtains, or sheets, a seatbelt, clothing on the body, and the presumed circumstances that would have placed that body in the water environment. Once that is accomplished, attention may be focused on the condition of the remains, evidence of interaction between the body and the surroundings, and proper interpretation of post-mortem animal predation or an extraction that damages a delicate body.
We know Kiely Rodni did not drown.
Some time ago, I did a cursory search of what happens to the organs of a young body 16 years old upon death by drowning. And for an untrained person in the field, I was surprised by the large discrepancies between Kiely's autopsy and basic research in the field. Even an untrained person can see that something is not right. For a 16-year-old girl, the heart will usually weigh between 200 and 250 grams. After a drowning death, the basic weight is not likely to change significantly. Kiely Rodni. The heart weighs 90 g and appears normally formed. The lungs of a 16-year-old female typically weigh between 800 and 1,000 grams in total, with each lung weighing approximately 400-500 grams. The weight of the lungs of a 16-year-old woman after death by drowning can vary, but it is common for the lungs to become heavier due to fluid accumulation normally, often to 1,500 grams per lung, depending on how much water is inhaled. Kiely Rodni. The right lung weighs 100 G, and the left lung weighs 110 G. The weight of the kidneys can vary depending on several factors, including body size and general health. For an average 16-year-old female, each kidney usually weighs between 150 and 150 grams. Kiely Rodni. The right kidney weighs 50 G, and the left kidney weighs 70 G. Spleen will usually weigh between 150 and 200 grams. In case of drowning, changes in the weight of the organs can occur due to fluid absorption, and Kiely weighs 40 G, and the peers normally form. Hair. Blonde hair up to about 22 inches in maximum length, and there's a large discrepancy from the surveillance image that we can all agree is not Kiely Rodni.
Discussion. Decomposition in water. Decomposition progresses far differently in a liquid medium compared to what occurs in air.
Kiely Rodni did not drown.
Similar to the usual decomposition process that occurs in a dry environment, postmortem changes in water are affected by temperature, animal predation, clothing, and microorganisms. Additional variables such as current and the physical changes brought about by saturation of the tissue will alter the appearance of a body located in water.
Prosser has no current.
PubMed authors
And others
have observed that postmortem decomposition proceeds rapidly after the body is removed from the liquid environment. For that reason, it is recommended that the postmortem examination not be delayed for any significant length of time after a body is recovered from the water. Nevada and Placer County.
admit you screwed up.
We know.
Kiely Rodni did not drown.
Shall I tell you the truth?
Early postmortem changes.
And signs of immersion.
Wake up.
If a body of water is the primary death scene, and the body has been immersed for only a short period of time, the position of the body will be affected by clothing and any personal effects on the body. If the individual has drowned, typically the body will initially submerge and assume what has been called the drowning position.
More evidence Kiely Rodni did not drown.
This is where the anterior aspect of the individual faces the bottom of the body of the water, and the extremities and head hang downward towards the bottom while the individual's back is towards the surface. In shallow water, the hands, knees, dorsal aspect of the feet, and the forehead may drag along the bottom, creating postmortem cutaneous abrasions that may be difficult to differentiate from antemortem injuries. These abrasions will be exaggerated in a strong current. As putrefaction progresses and gases are formed from bacterial activity, the body will typically surface unless entangled, or the buoyancy is altered by clothing or personal effects in a strong current, like Riley's strain. The remains may strike rocks or brush with enough force to create the appearance of significant external trauma to the body.
She's dead.
We know. Kiely Rodni did not drown.
Goddamn murder. Look, we're all in this together. Let's call the police.
No.
What?
No.
Early postmortem changes and signs of immersion. Perhaps the most well-known external change that immersion in liquid has on the body is wrinkling of the skin, particularly involving the hands and feet. Traditionally, this has been called washerwoman's hands, or washerwoman's changes, though a better designation on the autopsy report would be cutaneous changes of immersion. Cutis anserina, or goose flesh, is another cutaneous change of immersion, and is caused by rigor of the erector pili muscles within the skin. Both of these changes, wrinkling and cutis anserina, will occur as a postmortem change and do not require the individual to be alive upon entering the water. Kiely Rodni did not drown. The usual postmortem changes of vascular marbling, dark discoloration of skin, and soft tissue bloating and putrefaction occur in the water as they do on land. In water as much as on land, though at a different rate, particularly in cold water. Slotting of the skin, particularly involving the hands and feet, is common with prolonged immersion.
drowning victims frequently have fluid collections in the pleural cavities at autopsy regardless of the postmortem interval. Ask yourself, why didn't Kiely? While some of the pleural fluid may represent true effusion occurring as part of the drowning process, fluid accumulation in the pleural spaces is also commonly present in bodies recovered from the water that have undergone decomposition, irrespective of the cause of death. A similar phenomenon is seen with the presence of dirt and vegetation in the respiratory tract. Some aspiration of foreign material may occur during the drowning process, though water and debris may also enter the respiratory tree in the postmortem period, particularly in turbulent water. Compared to non-decomposed bodies recovered from water, bodies that have undergone decomposition and recovered from water have been found to increased pleural fluid accumulation, increased animal predation, and more commonly have dirt and vegetation in the lower respiratory tract. See, Kiely Rodni did not drown. Rigor mortis and livor mortis are typically present in bodies recovered from the water, though the onset and waning of these classic postmortem changes may be altered by water temperature, current changing of body position due to movement, extraction, and level of activity prior to death. Pink discoloration of the teeth and gums, an observation once thought to be a sign of drowning, is likely due to lividity in these tissues occurring while the body is in the aforementioned drowning position. We know, Kiely Rodni did not drown.
Temperature and current. In most cases, the temperature of the water will be cooler than the ambient air temperature. Cooler temperatures generally slow the decomposition process. Exceptions include hot tubs and tropical bodies of water. Current has primarily a mechanical effect on bodies in water. The body itself may be dragged for a distance or sloughed from flipping during extraction, creating artifacts that can be mistaken for injuries, like a tattooed area of skin that slips from rib to hip. The remains or clothing may also get caught on rocks, branches, and other objects in the water, creating artifacts that require proper interpretation. A sock tucked inside of a shoe. Not only will a strong current transport the remains for a moderate or even long distance, but other objects in the water can get caught up in the current and come into contact with the remains in a similar manner. In the process, the body may strike rocks or brush, creating postmortem abrasions and lacerations. Actual injuries may be difficult to appreciate due to leaching of blood from the wounds by the liquid environment. A strong current will enhance the leaching process, and a careful assessment for any vital reaction is required to distinguish postmortem from antemortem trauma on the body. Water temperature and current will affect the rate of cooling for a body in a liquid environment. The core temperature of the body at the time of recovery is even less helpful in determining postmortem interval when the body is recovered from water. Adipocere formation may occur in wet or immersed bodies. Adipocere is a yellow-brown waxy material composed of long-chain hydrocarbons such as oleic, palmitic, and stearic acids. It is produced by the conversion of neutral lipids to these compounds as part of the putrefaction process. Both enzymes in the body and within bacteria contribute to the conversion of lipids present in the body to the components of adipocere. Inadequate oxygen combined with a surplus of lipids results in insufficient microbial degradation. Adipocere has a characteristic appearance and is generally resistant to further decomposition. The formation of adipocere usually occurs over a somewhat lengthy postmortem period, typically several months. However, relatively rapid formation of adipocere has been described. A similar putrefaction change may be observed on the surfaces of solid organs, particularly the liver, and on the surfaces of mucous membranes. White spots that have a somewhat miliary appearance have been observed in bodies that have been submerged for prolonged periods. This is presumed to be a breakdown of lipids in a process similar to adipocere formation or saponification. The white spots on a mucosal surface from a drowning victim are part of the decomposition process. We know Kiely Rodni did not drown.
Animal predation. Animal predation, including insect activity, is very different in the water environment. In some cases, the body will be floating on the surface and the usual arthropod predators such as blowflies and carrion beetles will have access to exposed tissue. The immersed portion of the body will be subject to different predators. Aquatic insects may alter the appearance and condition of the remains. Large fish or cause tissue damage that in some cases may mimic trauma to the body. Smaller fishes, crabs, shrimp, and invertebrates prey on soft tissue, and if given the opportunity can completely deflesh exposed parts of the body. Fish, turtles, and other animals may aggressively feed on remains. It is not unusual for small fish and crustaceans to gain access to the interior of the body through skin and soft tissue defects, or even normal body orifices. Conclusion.
Determining the cause and manner of death for bodies recovered from water can be challenging. The challenge becomes even greater as the postmortem interval increases. The progression of decomposition changes in a liquid environment is altered by temperature, current, interaction between the remains and the physical environment, and animal predation. While postmortem putrefaction takes place as it does in a dry environment, differences in bacterial flora and an anaerobic atmosphere alter the usual chemical processes, and with significant postmortem intervals may result in the conversion of fats to Adipocere. Forensic pathologists and medical legal death investigators must be familiar with the expected postmortem changes that occur in immersed and submerged bodies, as well as postmortem artifacts such as animal predation that may be misinterpreted as antemortem injuries. If you feel an autopsy wasn't thorough, seek a second opinion from a pathologist, coroner, medical examiner with experience in performing water submersion and/or immersion autopsies, and demand toxicology run full panels to ensure your loved one's homicide doesn't get deemed accident or suicide. And above all things, do not cremate your loved one unless you are certain of the cause of death. Placer and Nevada County cover-ups.
And the corruption.
Say their names. Accountability and justice. We know Kiely Rodni did not drown.
Squirrels.
Sourced from PubMed, academic forensic pathology articles, and Google Scholar.